Now, we take for granted, I talked about it a little bit in the presentation about dyslexia, that everyone can listen as easily as everyone else. Um, the prerequisite cognitive abilities to listen and a host of cognitive tasks mediated by areas in the left temporal, left parietal, left temporal, left frontal areas make listening easier or harder for some people. I know that when I go to an event like a wedding, and there's a lot of people sitting at big tables and there's a band in the background, I find it extremely uncomfortable to converse even with the person right next to me. I cannot, in my mind, easily separate foreground from background noise. And therefore I rarely understand what the people close by at the table are saying. I feel very intimidated. I often find myself out in the hallways or out in the lobbies looking for excuses to escape that situation. Now, kids that have auditory processing weaknesses, when the language load in the classroom is high, they're going to have a hard time in school, and or that will contribute directly to problems with reading and spelling. There's only a couple more I want to get to on this presentation, and we'll go into all these in more detail. The ability of the brain to be designed well to do visual imagery or mental imagery is considered nonverbal intelligence. And this is critical to running simulations and having comprehension. Weaknesses in this area will contribute to difficulties with seeing the big picture, with anticipating what may happen next, with sequencing and predicting, inferential and deductive reasoning. So the nonverbal, which is really the right parietal, right frontal areas, primarily responsible for that, can also contribute to all kinds of academic and social shortcomings. And finally, before we get to actual academics, language and literacy. You know, there's some studies that kids that grow up in homes that have educated parents and a lot of parental support, birth to 4, compared to kids that don't have that luxury, have heard 40 million more words before they start pre-K4. If you have a 40 million word head start on being exposed to concepts in your environment like the animals and foods and colors and people's names and geographic locations and cultural differences and insects and animals' habits, and go on and go on and go on. But the more prerequisite knowledge you have, crystallized verbal intelligence as it relates to the world around you, the much easier it will be to move forward in school, comprehend, and really embrace learning. So this is all of the requirements that are prerequisite requirements to be able to manage school. When one or more of these systems is weak, you'll be an extremely frustrated student. When all of these systems are weak, you won't be as frustrated as the kid who has most systems average or better with one weakness. They say ignorance is bliss, and it's very true. Some of the happiest kids I ever see are the kids with the lowest cognitive ability. Some of the most frustrated kids I ever see are the kids with high cognitive ability, with a big gap in one of the core requirements necessary to manage what the teachers are throwing at them day after day, and are not able to live up to what parents are expecting of them day to day. And these are the kids that have your anxiety disorders, and these are the kids that don't pay attention. So we really have to get to the core of it before we start taking leaps to treat ADHD with medication and treating anxiety with medication and therapy. So that's what we'll talk about as we progress in this lecture series. We'll go into each of these areas in more detail. Thank you for your attention.